Hi there, I'm Ben, and today I'm here just to provide a basic crash course on unwrapping and using the UVW Unwrap modifier in Autodesk 3D Studio Max 2010. Now, a few of you may be asking, Ben, why aren't you using the latest version of Max, 2012 or 2013? Well, that's because the Autodesk have actually changed a lot of the UI and the layout of the new UVW Unwrap modifier, and personally, I just prefer using the old one. So, and I know a lot of people out there, particularly in some of the communities I work in, still use older versions of 3D Studio Max. So maybe some as far back as Max 8 and stuff like that. So where the modifier is the same as 2010s. So I thought, well, let's just do it on this one because it's pretty good and pretty solid. Right. So before we actually get to unwrapping something. There's a few little tricks and tips I've got to show you. So to set up your 3D Studio Max for unwrapping, if you go to Customize and go to Customize User Interface, we've got these two combo boxes here with Group and Category. If we go into the Category one first, we can just go to this UVW Unwrap rollout here. And you'll see there's a few options, a few actions here. If you click Stitch Selected, I've got that set to the hotkey S at the moment. So if you assign that to assign Stitch Selected to S, that'll make things a lot easier. You'll find out why when we get into unwrapping. But if we just set this up first, it makes things a hell of a lot easier. If we go down to the top combo box to Group and click on Unwrap UVW, we've got a lot more options down here. The ones we're looking for here are break selected vertices, which we want to set to A. So all we have to do is click the hotkey, click A, then click Assign. Then if we go further down, we've got to look for Relax Dialog. We'll set that to D. Then we're looking for texture vertex weld. There we go. Texture vertex weld S ... So we set that to Q. These three hotkeys will make things a hell of a lot easier when we're joining bits of geometry together in our unwrap modifier. Okay, so now we've got that set up, we can actually get to unwrap something. So I'll start with unwrapping a box because that's like the easiest thing you can do, and it'll break everyone into unwrapping objects and such. So if we can first convert this to or add an edit poly modifier to the stack, and then add a UVW unwrap modifier to the stack as well. Right, you'll see we've got all these green lines, which are the seams. If we go into edit, this is the rollout. Personally, there's this checker thing just annoys me. So if you click on that, it'll get rid of it. Oh yeah, and it's always good to set your object color to something like white because it shows up well on here. Right, the first thing we've got to do is go down to face sub-object mode and select the entire thing. Then we go to mapping, flatten mapping, set the spacing to 0, make sure these three are ticked and that's unchecked, and then we go OK. Right. So now it's given us our more than six squares which make up a cube. So basically, what do we do? How do we start to piece together this cube? Right. Say this was being used in the game as a crate. You'd always expect this to be at the bottom because obviously it's the base of the crate, so it's not being seen by the player. So you can have your seams running along here because texture seams are where two textures join, and it looks quite messy if you leave the seams out. So so what we're going to do here now is we're going to take the top, which is this, and we're going to zoom in. Then we're going to select an edge and hit our S key, which is the stitch button we binded earlier, and that'll stitch these two together. And then we can do the same all around. And now we have a nice piece of unwrapped geometry. We could even go further as to stitch the bottom to it, but it's a case of well, it's a case of preference really. You could choose one of these. Maybe if the box was meant to be seen from one direction, or it has physics enabled to it, so the box tips over and stuff. But that's not really that necessary at the moment. But we'll just do that for now. So now, now this box is unwrapped. As you can see, it's like if people that come to me and ask me, Ben, describe unwrapping for me. And like, well, if you were ever in school and you did, if you ever did work on the nets of boxes, the nets of objects, then this unwrapping is pretty much like the net of a 3D object. Because you're basically taking a 3D object and peeling it apart and unwrapping it. So yeah, that's an easy box. But now let's get into something a bit more complicated. I do not want to save the box. This is Battle Fortress from Apocalypse Rising, and it is incredibly complicated. I mean, if you look, it's like 5,900 polys. So how would we start about unwrapping something like this? Well, all of this is one object currently. So because it's a tank and it's got tracks, we'd expect this texture on the, well, expect a texture on this track section to pan along the mesh. So if you're making a tank or if you're making tracks, always keep the mesh separate because it requires a separate unwrap. So I'll just call that tracks. There we go. So I'll just hide that for now, or we'll move out of the way so we don't get complicated with that. Right, so a lot of these bits and pieces are all the same. Like if you look closely, all of these wheels are the same, and like we've got two objects here which are exactly the same. You only need to unwrap these objects once because then you can clone them over. So for example, if I could delete all of these wheels here because I could just clone them over later. And stuff like that. So it's just about being clever with what you model and being clever about what you unwrap, because I mean, if you're unwrapping the same thing over and over again, say these bars, you're unwrapping 5 of them when you can only really you should only really unwrap 1, and that sort of stuff. But yeah, for argument's sake, I'm going to leave this how it, well, for time's sake, I'm going to leave this how it is at the moment, just so I can show you some more techniques. Right, so if we go down and apply a unwrap UVW modifier to this, you'll see it's kind of a bit everywhere. If we go into this, oh my god, what is that? You may be thinking. Well, this is it gets worse. This is pretty much what you start with when you're unwrapping any object, because most of this is custom made mesh. So when you're making custom meshes, Max kind of goes, oh, can't really fathom what this is, so I'll just kind of make a shitty unwrap attempt. So right, we'll take all of this, all of this. Okay, what is this doing? Control A. Right, let's try flatten mapping this. Remember, 0 ticks. It's thinking about it. Oh, there we go. Right, so that's taken all of the objects and it's pretty much just gone, oh, so this is a face, so I'll throw this in there. Oh, this is a face, this is a face, this is a face. So it's basically thrown out a load of the bigger chunks and faces together. Like, you've still got all these kind of little bits and pieces, which, I mean, that's 2 faces welded together. So that'll take time. But yeah, I'm just going to take this body this body section and unwrap that. So this plus and minus tool is really good. You just click on it and you can just go way, and it'll select all the element you're working on. So if we take this away for the second, right? So we've got this side panel here, and this bit here, this edge here connects over to this over here. So if we wanted to put these together, of course we go select the edge, then stitch it. You can stitch all along here using that S key we set up earlier. It's very handy, it's very quick, and then we can just set up this. Nice and easy, just connecting it all together. Right, so this entire top bit is pretty much unwrapped now. You may decide you want a bit of an edge here, you want to use the seam to define the edge. Well, that's perfectly fine. You won't need to set these up or to stitch these up, but yeah, it's all a matter of preference, to be honest, about how you want to unwrap your stuff and where you want to put it. Say if we stitch this down here, like you wouldn't stitch those together because that'll stretch that too much across, and you'd end up with some bad stretching errors. Like if I click checker pattern on here, you see how the checkers they're supposed to be square, but if you start messing with them, they turn rectangular, which is bad because you'll get stretching on your texture. Right, now basically what we need to do now, you may be thinking, what are those other hotkeys you were messing around with earlier, Ben? We know the stitch one, but what the other ones do? Well, I'll show you. Say if you decided you didn't want these together, take off my select element check. I'm really bad for that. Say you didn't want the side connected to the top, then you'd hit A, which we set up as break. A. Right, so in the end, after a lot of searching around, I found what was wrong with the whole break scenario, and that was this little button up here, keyboard shortcut override. If it looks like that, then none of your keyboard shortcuts will work. If it's pushed in, then you'll be able to use your keyboard shortcuts. So as you can see, you can just pretty much break everything apart. It's like Lego building blocks. All you have to do is you can just break anything off anything, and it's kind of nice in a way because it allows you to really kind of take the faces you want to put together and pretty much construct them all together and make pretty nice looking unwraps at the end of the day. So I'm just going to stitch this back up. So I can show you the next bit, which is going to be the relax tool. As you can see, this has kind of been distorted, and the relax tool kind of helps to get rid of the distortion. As you can see, like you've got a bit of a slope here on our checker. So that's kind of bowing in the texture, which in the end will produce a lot of distortion. So we need to get rid of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the entire thing, and then we're going to hit D, which we set up for relax dialog. Right, there's relax by edge angles and there's relax by face angles. I find face angles is usually better than edge angles, and centers is absolutely useless, so never use centers. So I use face angles and set that as default because it's kind of useful. I find it more useful than edge angles. So if we click apply, that'll start to shift the whole thing. We can maybe ramp the amount up a bit and let it do it on itself for a while. Alright, so if we go back here, it's cured the distortion a bit, but I think it's because of this bit of a slope here up and down that it's kind of really not liking it very much. So I think at the end of the day we will actually have to break these two bits off to stop them from distorting that much. But it's alright because there is a natural seam running along there anyway, so that'll be fine. So if we start to relax, yeah, it's relaxed back into its proper position, and we've got nice non-distorted squares again. That's good. So if we do that again to that, we've got ourselves a nice bit of unwrap there. Right, so we've got all these other bits here just to unwrap quickly. You may be wondering what that texture vertex weld shortcut we set up was. Well, that's for bits and pieces such as these bits, because this pretty much is, that's that bit, and because, well, these bits are frankly, they're behind wheels, and it's only the most nitpicky of nitpicky people that's going to be able to tell that there's a different texture on this side and that side. So at the end of the day, it's just better to save unwrap space and make these share the same UVW map space. So what we need to do is we need to weld these two bits together so that they take up the same space. This will require using the mirror tools up here to mirror this down. So they're pretty much the same now, but you can't just put one on top of the other and go, there we go, that's done, because obviously you've got these bits and pieces hanging out everywhere. So if we go down to vertices and we select the vertices that needed to be flush together, hit Q, and we can just cue them all together quite nicely to create this new shape, which is a combination of the two. Now when you texture this bit, that's a bit too far away from each other. The weld's got a threshold, so you have to move the points pretty close to each other, otherwise they won't weld together. There you go. So now when you texture this bit here, it will texture both of these sides. So that'll be really good. Like, you can do this, probably do this the same for these bits as well, because technically they're pretty much the same bits, and there wouldn't be that much variation in them. And because they're underneath the tank itself, it doesn't really matter if they are this way. So if we take, these are the two pieces in question, the two offenders. Right, so if we take that there, if we just mirror that, put it over the top, and here we go. Q, 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 Q it all up. It's just handy doing this because it saves quite a fair bit of texturing, to be honest. Well, I guess you could texture one and then mirror it onto the other, but then that would waste quite a lot of unwrap space, which you could use for other objects and stuff like that. Right, so all we've got left now is these bits just to unwrap. This front bit here, I dare say we could probably just squeeze that onto the end of there. So if we stitch that there, like that, there we go. Got a nice bit of geometry there. This bit doesn't need touching really, it's just the underside. I guess we could take these two bits here and break them off using A, and then just have this as the underside, and then just weld these up here. Get rid of that relaxed dialogue for now. Alright, so we've got the underside of the battle fortress here. Then all's left is these little fiddly bits. This is a headlight hole, so we can just take this select element checkbox, just loves to play with me. Just stitch it all up. And because they're pretty much the same, after we've stitched it, we can just put it over the top of each other and weld it as well, making for a much more efficient unwrap, which would do really good. There we go. So that we can move that up there. And as I'm saying, I mean, this is the biggest object on the unwrap, and it's not taking that long to unwrap, in all fairness, because of these shortcuts. The shortcuts really help to make unwrapping quick, which is really good, because otherwise it's just one of those boring, monotonous processes that everyone hates doing. Right, so that connects onto there. Just got to see what this actually, this bit of geometry actually is. Ah, it's this bit. So, to be honest, that and that connect onto that. So, you see that'll clip, so that's not very good. But oh, there we go. That could be, no, that's not very good either. So I dare say we could probably just go with that. That's that strip up here and all around here, which is pretty much one space. If we turn this by 90 degrees, plonk that down there, take this up, and probably turn that 90 degrees as well. Turn my angle snap on. Angle snap is really good for precision moving of items. That wasn't very precisionally moved, but in the future, angle snap is the way forward. It's the future. So yeah, that's pretty much the Battle Fortress body unwrapped. I'm not going to unwrap the rest of it because I would be forever just pulling objects around. But hopefully that's given you a basic idea of how to unwrap something in the same vein as this vehicle. As I said, that's pretty much hard surface unwrapping. Now, if we're thinking about unwrapping something a bit more organic, like for example a human head, that's a lot easier. So I'll just open up a human head and show you. Open. Yeah, we'll save the changes. Head example. Right, so I've got this head here from one of Scott Spencer's DVDs on anatomy modelling. So I'm just going to show you quickly how I would go about unwrapping this head. The unwrap is kind of all over the place. Look at these seams. So how are we going to rectify this? Well, we've got the unwrap modifier on already. If we go to edit, as you can see, it's all a bit everywhere. So how do we go about unwrapping this? Well, first we'll set our colour to white. As you can see, it makes it show up a bit better. Right, we're going to select all of this, so that's the entire model, and we're going to go click cylindrical. Right, at the moment you're like, where's that gone? Well, if we click fit, then that will make a nice cylinder around the entire head. As you can see, it's appeared here quite nicely. But obviously the seam should be on the back of the head instead of the front of the head. So right, if we click fit, best align. Well, that's not the best align. Use align Z, because align X, align Y, they're not really that good. Align Z for this, because that's where you want the cylinder to be. Fit, I get when we've got this. So, right, if we uncheck cylindrical, or click it, there we go, uncheck, unclick cylindrical, and now we're back here. We've got this massive seam down here, which should really be at the back. So if we take the half the head and disconnect that, and then reattach it on the other side, so we get our nice we give our nice stitch shortcut a bit of a workout here, as we're just going through and stitching everything up, really stitching all the bits and pieces up. We'll need to use relax in a minute to get the head looking right. I'll put the checker pattern on just to check. We're not doing too bad, but the squares are kind of looking a bit rectangular, so we might get a bit of stretching on the texture there. If we just keep going through this as quickly as we can. There's obviously bits and pieces like the nostrils which will need to either come out or stay in, depending on how we can modify the unwrap. But the thing we should be concerned about at the moment is just getting this all stitched up, so he doesn't have a great big seam going down the middle of his face, because that could look pretty bad in a game, to be honest, if you had a character who had a big line going down his face. Unless he'd been cut by a knife or something, then it would be legitimate. Right, here we go. So we've got this fellow here now, who's pretty much entirely unwrapped, albeit very, very crudely. So if we go to our relax dialog, we relax by the face angles, set as default, start relaxing that. Oh my god, look at what's happening. His face is kind of like mushed up and everything has been lost. So if we go back and we try edge angles, it's a little bit better, but not much. The root of the problem is that this forehead here is a bit too stitched up. We need to unstitch it a bit, pick the stitching. So we'll use our break tool, our break shortcut, which is A, again, to break this up a little bit. Then we'll try relaxing again. I might just not break it all, break the chin a little bit as well. Give him a bit of space to unfold. Right. That's still pretty bad. It's just all about giving him room, giving your character model room to unfold. To be honest, that's pretty shocking right now, but it's okay. We can fix this. Just see where it meets. There we go. As you can see, that's pulling apart a bit now, and starting to look a little bit better. The squares are kind of evening up a bit, which is kind of good. He's looking kind of a bit worse for wear, but at the end of the day, he's looking okay. Right, so if we go around this ear, just select all the polys. Actually, if we just go around this ear like this, start in the middle, and then grow our selection out using this plus. There we go. We can then just break off the ear using A, take it out, because the ears are kind of bendy and they have to kind of be separate. Plus there's a natural seam there anyway behind the ear, so you'll be able to hide whatever bits and pieces. We've got, right, pull that away. Let's have another look. I'll just select that element. Wonder what happens if I try face. Oh, he's looking a bit sad. Try edge again. It's just all about just keep using the relax tool to find what's good. Just feeling your way through it. probably actually re-weld some of this. So if we select this and then we go to ring, yeah. Select these two, and then no, I can't do that. Right. There we go. And again for this here, done. Start welding this all up again, or stitching it back. Because in the end it wasn't actually didn't actually need it to come out in the first place, but oh well. Oop. There we go, just stitch it back up, stitch it all the way around, and there we go. Edge angles. That's looking okay now. I mean, the squares are looking actually like squares, regardless of how bad he looks on here. Looks a bit sad, but no, the squares are looking quite good. We could even probably start to stitch back up some of his chin, and some of his forehead as well, and then try. Yeah, it's looking a bit better now, because you'll have this seam going down the back of his head, which will probably be covered by hair anyway, unless he's bald. Or, but if he's bald, you could always put a hat or a hoodie or something on him, which will cover up this nasty seam. Around the ears is just a given, really, for a seam, because you've got this natural line here. So yeah, now we're going to just put him into the put him into here. There are a lot of automatic unwrapper packers out there which take your unwrapped materials and pack them into here, but I always find it's better to do it myself, because you always get a good you always get a better result at the end. It's like a big puzzle, really. Like obviously you'd probably have something else on this unwrap besides the head, because you've got all this unused space down here. So I don't know if you're going to put like the hair, you'd put it down here, or if you had eyeballs, obviously you'd put them up here or something like that. So just to fill the space, really. If you've got other bits of your character you want to unwrap and put on the head, the texture for the head, you could have like, I don't know, hands maybe on here. You could mix and match, definitely, just to put on whatever you want onto each unwrap, just to make it as efficient as possible, really. But no, that's pretty much how to unwrap more organic objects. Just use the cylinder tool and stuff like that. Just kind of look at the shape and go, wow, that kind of looks like a box. I'll click box and stuff like that. And it's like if you're unwrapping a football, click spherical. It's very, very kind of self-explanatory. Just use a bit of common sense. So if we were going to render this off as a final, we could go to render UVW template, and you get this nice little box here. We could do a 1024 by 1024 just as a test. Personally, I turn the seam edges off, because green lines on your Photoshop documents doesn't really do you any favours. And the white lines will appear anyway. So as I say, look, there you go. That's nice. What I tend to do usually is I usually render out a black one like this. So head text .tga 24-bit, because it's got no alpha. and then I also render out another one, but as a PNG. I call that head text wire. Heeks teeks wire, head text wire. There we go. And I click alpha channel on this, so that when if I click save again, they'll be in here. So when I'm coming to get all my stuff in Photoshop, I've got a nice wireframe here. It's not very, can't really see that. I'll just render it out on render out a different color for you so you can see it. Put the edges on to blue. There we go. Render UVW template. Head text wire. Yeah. Alpha channel. Go to save again. There we go. See, that's all alpha mapped, so you can just overlay that over your texture, and it's really, really good. Really handy for just seeing where everything is on the model if you get a bit lost when texturing. That's generally what I like to do. Also, as another quite nice technique I like to use, if you've got something, if you want to do a bit of like color filling and stuff in the unwrap, you can also change the color to solid, and it'll just mark out some colors for you, which is kind of cool. There's a shaded one. There you go again. There's another shaded one. But no, I sometimes find that those are kind of useful, but not as useful as the alpha mapping thing. So that really concludes it, really. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video. Hope I haven't been too boring. And yeah, if you've got any questions, comments on the video, just let me know, and I might produce a better version at some point in time. Okay. Right. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed and had fun unwrapping. If you've got a nice complex model you want to unwrap, just stick on some music for 4 hours, as a guy once told me, and just zone out to it, and in 4 hours it should hopefully be done. But yeah, good luck with your unwrapping, and I hope you guys learn from this video and use those shortcuts I provided. That was the main thing about this video, is the shortcuts. I cannot stress enough how much time the shortcuts save you. So yeah, yeah. Thanks for watching.